How's it going, guys? Midnight Rains here. We're back with another video. We're going to start off with the light units today. Just before we start off, I did want to say that these videos are not like in stone. It's just kind of like my personal opinion of how I feel about all of the different units. Um, Especially with different equipment, people with a lot better equipment can make units I don't talk about be very useful, but it's just kind of, again, my personal opinion. So let's dive into the video, and we will go starting off with Miss Raspy. I know a lot of people have trouble with TOT in the last floor 100. It's definitely a game changer, and it's a step up, especially when you're first completing that for that first legend scroll you get. I mean, it means a lot. She has this move, excuse me, right here that can silence a row for 3 turns. Basically, what you want to do is you want to get, I think it's like 800 to 850 speed on her. I know that's a lot, but if you can get that and go first, you don't even need to awaken her. Just have that speed, maybe 20 to 25% accuracy. If you can awaken her, you might not need that speed. You might just need the accuracy. Grace usually goes first. Cast the reflect damage up. You can steal that off of her, you won't steal it, but you'll wipe it in the row, and then you can cast the silence, which is kind of what you want to do. But it is very helpful to get the first move in TOT. But she's worth mentioning for that. Her other moves don't really do anything. Chance for some stun. You're mainly just going to use her to lock down that field if you can with silence. I know it's hard to get Falcon in certain other units early game. I didn't pull Falcon until like 3 months after I started playing. So just kind of a heads up. Pei is in early game. He is pretty useful mid game too. He's not really an arena unit. He's just kind of like a getting through the game. He's a secret dungeon monster, so he's fairly easy to acquire, especially since he's I think it's intermediate. Um, so I think he needs 40 pieces to summon, so that's not too bad. He's got a consecutive hit with 3, and then he also recovers a little bit of that inflicted damage. He has a front row nuke. This is a pretty cool trait. It allows you to stun for 2 turns when you hit with a crit. So get his crit rate up. Probably stack attack on there. Pretty useful. He could do a little bit of nuke, and I know early game a lot of people were using him when the game first came out because he was just so easy to acquire. Looking at some of these, looking pretty funny. Light and Dark Giant are awesome. As you can see, he's grayed out. I have yet to get the Light or Dark Giant, but they are very good units. He's as tanky as he looks. He's got like a 70% self-heal, increases some damage decrease rate with a chance. I know it's only 80%, but if you can get it, I mean, I think it turns into like 40% if you have his other trait activated. He's got a chance for some reflect in here that can be pretty helpful. It's not like an arena monster. This guy is a solid PvE. He's just TOT hard. I'm sure he would be useful in mines and fortress in the floor 6s. Like those can be pretty hard for a lot of players. I know early game people were clearing mines B6 and fort B6 with light and dark giant. So he's a pretty cool monster to have any time of the game. Going to his other move here, he's got immunity against inability effects for like 4 turns, and then it has like a cleanse once you awaken him. Pretty solid. Pretty solid indeed. It's good immunity. It's probably like next to Cherry, the water unit. So I mean, I know I still have yet to get Cheery, but if you can't and you have the Giants are pretty good too. Victor is okay. He's got like a 3-turn stun if you can land it, and if you awaken him, it turns into 2, but he gets the ability to increase the skill cooldown by 1. Granted, if you stun them, the cooldown thing isn't as useful because it'll both go off at the same time. But if you can only land one or the other, I mean, it kind of helps. Other than that, he's not too good. Probably early game, if that. I wouldn't invest in him, like making him 6-star or something. Tauriel, I'm gonna say, is one of the assassins. Pretty awesome. I'm not sure what I would rank him among the assassins. All the assassins are really good. They all have that first attack, which is pretty key. This guy, he hits 4 times and has chance to stun because he's a light. Most of the light units, they all kind of revolve around what their type is. So lights, usually will stun. But he does hit consecutively with those 4 hits, and that's pretty good. He's got front row nuke hits additionally. 30% chance if the enemies are above 70% HP. That's pretty helpful. Kind of like a Frostwolf effect that's built in. And then a little chance to increase some extra damage. So these guys hit pretty hard. Especially this guy. I know a couple people have him built up and they use him in arena. Even level 40, some people already made him level 40. It was pretty crazy. Strong Nene, the light and the darks I will stop on because they are pretty useful, especially against dark meta. Light versus dark, they both have elemental advantage. If you can nuke them, especially, you'll get that damage buff on there. These guys are pretty cool. The reason I like these guys is because it hits. It doesn't say in stone, but it says it hits 2 consecutive times, right? Okay, but for some reason, it will go by Miho with the 2 hits, and I'm not entirely sure how it does it. It says attacks again with a 50% chance, but if you hit something with this move, and I think it has to be awakened, yeah, it's got to be awakened, it'll hit, and it can actually KO a unit with only the 2 hits for somehow. So that's pretty useful. Pretty cool if you hit a legend dragon with this. You know how like they can come back from the grave. They have the what's it called? Immortal traits where they come back with 25% health. Cool thing about these guys is when this proc goes off, they will hit. If it kills the dragon and it gets revived, then you have a chance to proc. So it makes the dragon revive so it doesn't like live afterwards. Pretty helpful in a lot of scenarios, especially TOT floor 100. There is a fire dragon and he is super tanky if you do not have the proper equips to handle him. So that was one of my keys. I actually used the dark one, but the light one is good as well. Not to be overlooked. You got the decrease the inability time, when you get hit there. Some extra damage. He's got single target nuke, pretty useful, but it's mainly this second skill that just kind of rips through everything. So pretty good unit. Don't overlook those light and darks. All right, getting into air elemental. I don't have that one, but I know a few people that do. He does have the usual nuke and the back row with the ignoring the target's defense. Pretty helpful. Immune to silencing, and I mean he gets some, the regular damage buff. Could be useful. Maybe in arena if you hit and you have a chance to silence, and it ignores the target's defense. I mean, possibly silencing back row. I know a lot of people with the dark units. like the meta, they'll throw them in the back row, and then they'll be heavy nukes. So might be something to use. Again, not like the most amazing unit, but pretty good. Moving on to Judith, I see potential in a lot of units that have this like create a shield, especially if it's creating a shield not on just themselves, but it creates a shield on like the team. I know in Summoner's War, they had a unit named Chloe, and she gave a shield to the whole team. It was for 2 turns. Oh, well, no, it was for 1 turn with a 2-turn immunity. But I think granting a shield for two turns would be really good. I know most of these only give blocking 1-time attacks, but if you could time it right to block certain nukes, I think that would be really useful. Not a lot of players have considered it yet. I don't think I've seen anybody use a shield team before, but it might be something pretty cool in the future or a new unit that comes out. So keep your eyes open on those shield units. Not much on this guy. He's got some decreased skill cooldown and some self stuff here. I've never really seen this guy being used. But Lucille has some potential here. He had some increase the max HP, pretty helpful. Counterattacks, if you're superior to the enemy's attribute, pretty nice against dark units. He has the damage decrease like unicorns, but he adds a continuous heal. So that's pretty cool. This one's a pretty interesting nuke. He consumes 20% of his HP to deal 40%. And I'm not sure, I don't have him, but it says of his HP and then 40% of your max. So maybe it's 20% of his standard HP, and then it's of your max, which is with equips and all that, which would probably be even more helpful because you wouldn't consume as much HP to overall, so to speak. It might be. Gonna butcher this one's name. Yoji, I'm gonna say. We usually just say ONM or Yoji in chat. She's pretty cool because she has immunity against most of like the main CCs a lot of people use. You could possibly use this behind a Dynamis we'll get into in another video, or like LD tanks or light and dart tanks in like Fortress and Mines. Decent cross hitter, and then has like a single target possible multi-hit. It can attack up to 5 times randomly, but it doesn't always. I'm assuming it hits like twice to 3 times. Mine, it barely hit like twice. So it might be because it needs better gear. I'm not sure. Maybe I just have bad luck with her, but possible uses there. Moving over to the Unicorn, I think he had a full team evasion rate buff. Right now, especially for PvP, it's not as helpful to waste a turn casting evasion rate. It's better to just have it in gear already, or maybe a move that gets affected by your trait, like the trait says that it increases your passive 25%. So I don't know, maybe for like PvE it could be very helpful. Again, he has the share damage, like a lot of the other unicorns, and his like 5-hit block, which is kind of meh. Assuming if you're PvE, you probably might get the shield off. PvP, I wouldn't bet on it, but it might happen. Might block something useful. Fury is actually really good for Nest. He has a team trait that allows any hit to ignore the target's defense with 25% chance. Pretty helpful. The only thing with this is in Nest, you want to do a lot of damage, but then you have to be careful of counterattacks. So some people use them for certain nest bosses, but not all of them. And I know that I think it's every single hit, even a consecutive hit, will have the chance to ignore the enemy's defense. So that's pretty cool. A couple people used him early game in Arena just for the team, and then they nuked with different attack units. Pung is the light version of like Lang and Shion and all of them. Has that attack the next target. He's got decrease skill cooldown by 1 turn, which when you look at him would go to only 2 turn cooldowns, which is pretty nice. He obviously off the bat here, he doesn't even hit as high as Shion. Shion almost hits like, well, he used to hit twice as hard as this, but they increased Shion's cooldown and they kind of nerfed his attack a bit, but it's still better than this. Still has the chance to proc though, and then he's got like a stun he can do. Pretty decent. I would go with Shion, obviously, over these guys. But they are pretty useful, especially if you want to, or need to, rely on a little bit of luck to win the fight. Gold Dragon, all the non-legend drags, they got Overcome, so pretty useful. I talk about that in a lot of other videos. They go into Overcome Death. They wipe all debuffs on them. They can no longer be debuffed, except for the Overcome Death is a little a buff that goes above them that can be debuffed. Stuff like Adonis, Snowy, Black Queen, things like that can wipe off debuffs have a chance to get past this. Creates a shield on yourself. It's decent, but it's not as good as the Earth type. I think I would rather heal, I think it's 20 or 30% of your HP. Yeah, 30%. If you've used both of his skills, which if you're in a match and, he's like one of the dying guys, he can get that heal. If he's in Overcome Death, he can't heal, but it's still pretty useful. Mind you, I don't know if I've ever said it, but if a unit is in Overcome Death, they cannot be healed. Not at all. So they won't even gain 1 HP off of anything. Everything else will heal just fine, though. Shion, I'd like to get this guy and try him out. He's pretty cool. He's kind of like this support tank. He can recover 2 allies with the lowest HP. This was before Snowy came out, so I was really, really wanting this guy. Creates a shield on them. There again with the shields, I'm always wanting to try those out. And he has the ability to revive 2 dead allies with 60% of their max HP. Pretty cool. Definitely something I'd love to try out. They have that deep sleep effect where they go to sleep with a chance and regen 40% of their full HP, which is pretty useful if you make them very tanky. We've seen that in Sleepy and Snowy, and that's proved very good. Got some chance to heal, and then turns your HP to 1. So instead of dying, you hit 1 HP and you stay there until the next hit. Pretty cool, but it's mainly that double revive over the Miho limit and the recovery on 2 units, and then giving them a shield. It doesn't block continuous damage, but blocking any nukes will definitely help. So, pretty cool unit. I'd love to try him out. Light God, I still have mine. He's exploring professionally. He's got a decreased skill cooldown. Not as good as the fire type, obviously. Only 3 turns. I think the fire type is 15. So he's got 5 or less random attack with a chance to stun, I think. Yeah. and then a chance to do some extra damage according to attribute. It's okay. The random or less isn't as good. If it was, like even 3 random targets and had like a 240% might be okay if you stacked enough on him. I've never really built him just because looking at what he has to offer isn't that worth investing in. I know if you read a lot of your units, eventually you kind of learn what's good and what's not good. Immunity against stuns is pretty nice. Again, for like Fortress B6, immunity to stun is very key to beating that. And I'll talk about that later in a Fortress video. Alright. So we go over to Gunman Dwight. As you can see, the only difference between Gunman Dwight and Sniper Dwight is in the picture one is squinting. And then in this one, he got a backpack. Some professional creativity there, I can see. He's got a cross formation hit with a decrease for accuracy on the other team, and then nukes a row, but it's not multi-hit, so I think just PvE would be useful. But he's got chance to remove beneficial effects when you crit. Some more crit rate stuff. I know it's mainly about like him popping off crits, so it's decent. Not amazing. I pulled like 3 of him before. It was more early game when I was doing a lot of revos like every week. Titan, yeah. Of course, I don't sound too excited. He does have sort of some potential. I think it's just with this move where he has a stun on all enemies, but it's only 1 turn, so that won't last very long. Usually stuff with like 2 turns is a lot more useful. Self increase of attack power, decrease the skill cooldown when you attack, possibly, and then just passive attack power increase. He would make a good tank. I know some of these units, it says like they're an attack unit, like even Pung, the General Pung, it says he's an attack unit, but I mean, you look at these guys and it's like, well, that's a tank. Yeah, so don't always believe what you see it's classified as. You can always change the build of a unit in half the time. It doesn't matter. It's all about based on equips and then their overall stats. Valkyrie has a lot of potential. Creates the shield on yourself 5 times. It's okay. You look here and you got some okay. When you really want to do some damage when something's almost dead, it has like a chance to do extra damage. Grants immunity against weakening. Awesome ability. She's got decent moves, though. They're not as good. Attacks the enemy. Chance to stun and do a little extra damage. Of course, it's not consecutive hits. Creates shield on your row and column. Pretty cool. Doesn't block continuous effects. Again, it's only 1 turn block. But I see potential in these, especially when she can't be... the immunity against weakening effects is very, very useful in this game, especially for PvP content when you're facing other people. CC debuffs, like bleed and all that, and confuse is very powerful and can change games very fast, even if you don't have the right units to out damage per second or DPS the opposing team. Electric Lulu. Okay, this is another professional explorer. I know keeping a lot of the light and dark units can be helpful to do explore. Early game when you're low level, you won't see that you need them, but later you will use them to explore if you don't use them elsewhere. Chance to stun when allies are attacked. Oh, when all allies attack. My bad. It's pretty interesting. It's kind of like the fairies. I think that The fairies have better effects, though, because it's more when you're attacked and when you attack. It's both of them. I mean, you see here you got some stun and such, but I think poison and bleed and even the freeze one is a lot better than stun, just because the dots do damage, and a lot of stuff isn't as good as that. Again, I mean, you can kind of see why she's not as useful. I mean, just off the bat, with that being her best base of skill and traits. I mean, she's just kind of a professional explorer, we call it. Araydel, new unit. I actually know someone who actually just pulled her. I say her and he all the time. I think this one's a guy, but it's whatever. Great cross formation, 2 consecutive times. The cool thing about this guy is he has a cross hit and X formation hit, which is everything. Hitting 2 times in cross is cool. When you look at this, you're like, oh man, hits X formation, but it doesn't hit consecutively, so it's not good for arena. Well, we thought the same thing about Rhodos when it hit and it wasn't consecutive. But the cool thing about this is that this hits X, and then you look at the bottom and it says that it recovers your team, whoever is in X formation, by 620% of the attack power. Okay, the last unit that healed for that much was Snowy, and it full healed whatever it healed, and then they nerfed it down to 270%. I mean, that's pretty much, like, that heal is going to full heal whatever is in your X formation. So, pretty awesome. I mean, it hits, and I'm pretty sure that's going to nuke for 40% off the bat if someone has Miho, obviously, in X formation. And then you're just going to full heal your whole team. It's a pretty crazy move there. Decrease the skill cooldown if the inflicted damage. This is one like Pross has this. So pretty much, if the enemy team is in X formation and you nuke with that, do the 40%, you can basically use that skill a second time immediately. I mean, that's pretty cool. And pretty dangerous. Put a shield on yourself for 5 times. The 5 time is okay. Again, it's kind of like the unicorns. It's not as good. You don't see it come off as much. And increases the skill power of all skills. That's pretty nice. Nice trait to have on there to build. So all of his traits are pretty good. The shield one you could kind of avoid if you needed to, but that's going to be a unit to watch out for. The light Rhodos, probably. Sniper Dwight, okay, he squints and now has a backpack. I think he does the, stun on crit. And then he's got some increased crit rate the further away you are. And then, again, it's all about crit rate, so he's got another crit rate trait. And then attacks 2 times is decent. And then the damage is increased by 2 times if you get a crit. That's a pretty cool move. I'm sure that would do a lot of damage if you stacked it up. Especially had a high crit rate on him, at least like 60% or something. And you could probably do that with a ring. If you had the crit rate as the main sub. That's a decent attack here. He attacks the enemies in target row and column. It's not multi-hit, so it's not as good. We got this one where it's multi-hit, so that's a lot better. Multi-hit is always better because for PvP content, maybe for PvE, you could use him to stun lock with this skill and then hit this general area. but you know, it's a decent. You could use him early game, maybe mid game. Uh, I stopped using him mid game. Uh, Here's another one I'm a butcher. It's Elinus. They revamped all the Falcons. I think they're Falcons, Eagles maybe, but they look pretty cool now. This one has potential because of the immunity against the main meta CC. You see a lot of sleep and confusion. Some silencing, some people do that, but immunity against those two helps him. He attacks twice. I think the Sven has this ability, and then you go over to decreasing the skill cooldown of all skills by 1 turn. That's when you're attacked. That's sort of useful. With these kind of nukes, you kind of try to avoid being attacked. He's got a nice heal. Of course, if you make him a high nuke, with this, he'll have a high heal. So, and I'll go into how to stat later with what you want on units and how to get it. So he's actually pretty useful. Going over to Talos, he's pretty cool. I actually kept this guy. They revamped him. He sort of looks Italian with his curly half mustache there, beard going on. He's got an awesome heal where it's 400% of your attack power and then creates a shield. And of course, I kept it because it's got the shield ability going on there. Attacks the enemy with the highest attack power to inflict 30% of your max HP, and then decreases their attack power by 40% for 3 turns if they don't die. That one's pretty cool, and it doesn't make you sack any of your HP. Chance to remove harmful effects when you heal. That heal, that also works for the team, I think. Because it's the target. I think I tested this out. I'm sorry if I can't remember. I think it was 3 or 4 months ago. But I tested this, and it had a chance to take any debuff off from anyone I healed, not just him. So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool plus there. Increasing the damage decrease rate in proportional lost HP is always helpful. And damage decrease rate when you attack consecutively. We've seen that being used with Haya, the fire type 6-star. Pretty useful. Excuse me. So he's got a lot of potential. He's not MVP, so a lot of people don't use him. Alright, Evgenia is an insane 6-star legend to get. I mean, this thing is support. And if someone has a well-made one on their arena team, I mean, they get carried. Even if their team is crap, this thing will just sit there and revive everything. Look at this. Heals and recovers the HP by 900% of the attack power and revives a dead ally with the target's HP at 80% of their max HP. That's awesome. So you could go full on attack, so you had a super heal on it. I mean, you don't even need to go super high in the attack. It's 900% of your attack power. That's crazy. It's an awesome with the heal, and then you have here the other move actually creates a shield on allies to block a physical attacks for 1 turn, and then revives a dead ally. I mean, I've fought a couple of these today in arena, and it makes you so mad because they go in between these 2 moves and just sits there and revives their whole team. It's got to create a shield for the 5 times. This if you actually trait, will go off because the fights last so long. Decrease the skill cooldown of all skills. It makes both of them a 4 turn. Um, Definitely helps. And then the other one is barrier. If you've used both skills, um, or if you've used either skill more than 2 times, you get a shield. So a shield and a shield, and so it shields and heals and revives, and it's a depression. But it is, I'll admit, it is an amazing unit. And if you see like Evgenia, Fire Drag, Miho, and like 2 heavy DPS units like Sable and something, I mean, it be ready for the madness. Candela, I wouldn't say is like one of the best 6-star units. Of course, you're gonna have units that are sort of lacking. Um, the decreased skill cooldown is only 2, and increases a nice skill power buff, but it just kind of it lacks if you're setting up for like a high hit. I mean, of course, you can't get rid of legends, so you'll never get rid of her. Ha ha ha. But it's still somewhat useful if you're having trouble getting by something in game. Maybe TOT hard, you could like nuke with something, use this, and then have that kind of buff. I know attack buffs and defense breaks and CCs are very important in TOT hard. Um, Stun the target, decent. Increase the attack power. That's going to help with nuking. And then you have the decrease cooldowns if enemies defeated. Attacks 2 rows of enemies that are nearby. That's a pretty interesting move. You don't see that as much. Pretty cool because of the skill cooldown that you can add. That's about it, really. So I'm not saying she's bad. I don't like her as much as I like other units, but she has usefulness, of course. Holy Dragon, pretty cool evasion rate by 50%. The cool thing about this guy versus other people wasting turns trying to cast evasion rate is this also grants inability against or immunity against inability. It's an 80% chance, so it's kind of like an RNG dice roll, but I mean, if you get both, that's pretty cool. And that 80% chance is not 80% chance to go yes for all 5 units or no for all 5 units. That's an individual chance to get that extra buff on there to each unit. So some units could get it and some couldn't. Just to throw that out there. You have a nice Perfectionist and the Immortal trait because it's a Legend Dragon. Always makes them awesome. Increases bonus damage on stun targets. And then, of course, he nukes. He is a light type, so he's going to do surprise, stun, and then a chance to do some extra damage in there. So pretty cool. Legend Dragons are always nice. Moving on to Jean or Jian. Potential. A lot of potential. Team removes beneficial effects with 25% chance of attacking. That's the team trait that when you awaken her you get. Go in here first. This is pretty interesting. It hits, instead of hitting the front and a line, it hits the back row and a line that you're in. So that's kind of interesting. You don't see that as much. And the attack goes off of your defense. So stack up her defense, make her an amazing tank, and she would be an amazing nuke as well, which is kind of neat. I know it's not multi-hit, but that's still pretty good, especially even maybe TOT hard. This trait is really cool. It greatly increases the defense of all allies by for 3 turns, and grants immunity against all harmful effects. Now, again, another dice roll for 80% chance. But I mean, if this thing had a 100% chance to grant full immunity with a defense buff, I mean, this thing would be even better than Cheery. I know she wouldn't heal, but I mean, that's pretty awesome to grant that 2 buffs at once like that. She also has the patient trait where it increases the damage decrease rate. Like Haya, it's pretty helpful. So that makes her a really good tank. So if you see one that's really well traded, might have to watch out. Last up we have here is Phoenix. Know a couple people with him. He can be pretty crazy if he gets to all these moves off. He can do a nuke that does consecutive hits, inflict 13% of your max HP as damage. And it does a defense break for 2 turns with a 50% chance. And it hits that line and row. This is a really interesting move. Heals the allies in your row and column, including yourself. Recovers the HP by 120% of your max HP. Revives the targets with a 100% chance if they're defeated within 3 turns. It can be really annoying, especially a lot of teams, they want to nuke, CC, and debuff. And they want to do those 3 things in whatever order they need to as fast as possible to get an arena team dead and over with. I know I talk about PvP a lot. It's one of my favorite things to do, and it's kind of why I still enjoy the game so much, because PvP is kind of why I play. Wouldn't be as fun if you weren't playing with anyone, you know what I mean? So I kind of get in there and talking with everyone. Definitely a game-changing move if it's that buff stays up. The only down part to this is it is a buff, so you can debuff that and take it off with things like Raiden and BQ and Snowy, etc. So you just kind of gotta watch out for that, and time your attacks when you attack this guy. He's got the death escape where he hits 1 HP. He's got some recover if you've used 2 or more skills. Pretty cool. That can be helpful. And then increase the max HP. So, I mean, a solid unit. I mean, if you had, like, some, like, dream team of, like, Evgenia and Phoenix and, like, Fire Dragon stuff, like, the ultimate troll tank team, that would be pretty funny to see. Maybe in like a year or 2 when everybody's got all their stuff, we'll see that. Well, anyway, thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I'll try to upload the Dark video right after this one, so stay tuned, guys. Take it easy.